Short turns in a kata can almost define how you do a kata and be the difference that makes your kata look absolutely awesome. So one simple drill that could change your approach to turns completely could be the thing that makes all the difference. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you just joined us, you are watching Norwich Karate Academy. Be sure to check out all our other videos, and while you're there, click the subscribe button to keep up to date with all our content. So when it comes to performing particular turns in katas, now this goes for all katas where you are required to do a lot more movement and there's more spinning involved. What tends to happen is people tend to bring their foot in first and they focus heavily on that movement before worrying about the turn. Now, don't get me wrong, bringing your feet in is still a very important part of turn and, if anything, all aspects of karate. The other thing that people tend to do is there tend to be more swing. So there's less foot movement and more of a swinging action. So if you were to try and speed that up, that is going to heavily affect your balance and you aren't going to be able to perform the turn with the speed that you want to. So this simple drill is done to change how you approach the turn, but it still has all the very important aspects to the techniques in the turn, and it's a very good way to help you think about your speed a little bit more if you are looking to improve your speed and get more dynamic. Like we have said before, a lot of people tend to focus on bringing their feet in first before then worrying about the turn, which again is absolutely fine. But there's a lot of heavy emphasis on this, which could then mean it will slow you down. So the really simple drill is to think before you move forward, the first thing you should be thinking about is turning your shoulders first. So before you initiate any turn, your shoulders are going to turn before you then move your feet. Because then what you're actually doing is starting your turn so much earlier, which is actually going to enable you to finish the turn so much quicker. So if you were to think that you've got a pole or a wall on your shoulder, or you've got someone's hand on your shoulder, instead of moving towards their hand and pushing their hand, what you're thinking is, if their hand is on your shoulder, you're thinking, take your shoulder off their hand the moment you want to turn. And then at that moment, you start the whole very important thing of bringing your feet in. But instead of this motion, what's happening is, you're having that turn initiate from your shoulders and your hip as you move your feet in. So what's happening is the turn is actually starting a lot earlier, which is therefore meaning that you're going to finish the turn so much quicker. So to think when you do this, to separate it, you could practice bringing your feet in and then practice turning. But then once you've done that, start thinking, turn your shoulder first. So then once you start turning your shoulder, you can then continue the movement. And the good thing about this is that you could actually do this in any stance, from one stance to a different stance. So to keep things really simple, we're going to take a move out of Goju Shosho, which means this heavy turn is all done from front stance to whole stance. So rather than thinking bring your feet in, you're thinking, like I said before, someone's hand on your shoulder, you're going to start turning here as you want to initiate the turn, whilst at the same time bring your feet in. So thinking about your feet, but your shoulder is the first thing that's going to move, and you can gradually start speeding that up to a point where you're going to not stop in the middle, and you're going to commit to the turn, thinking your shoulder is the thing that moves first, and you can gradually start speeding that up. What you might find is that it will feel a bit difficult to start with because it's not something you're used to, but gradually over time, you'll be able to improve your technique while thinking about this shoulder movement. And what's happening is your whole body is moving in one motion rather than a stop, a turn and move. You've got that nice quick initiation stage of the turn, and your movement becomes nice and smooth. And that way you can then start adding your techniques, whether that's a groin block, a knife hand block, whether that's going in whole stance, back stance, or even front stance. So all you're thinking about before you start your turn is thinking about your shoulder, rather than the obvious thing of moving your feet. And like I said before, you can think about putting this into all sorts of different stances. So as I'll demonstrate now, if I were going to go from front stance to front stance, rather than swinging my foot round and having this delayed action with my body, I'm starting from my shoulder, and this movement will make my turn so much sharper. And at the same time, I'm still thinking about bringing my feet in. I'm not swinging my leg round. It's like I said before, this is still very important, bringing your feet in, because that controls your body and therefore your balance. So you're thinking about getting your shoulder off someone's hand or off a wall. Start this turn first. Your turn actually starts early and then you finish it quicker. And the same for when you go into back stance. It's the shoulder movement that is going to help you maintain your balance, and you still have this controlled footwork so that you don't lose your balance, and you're moving so much earlier to make sure that you finish your stance a lot earlier as well. And then you can start incorporating your moves into your techniques, whether that's doing knife hand block, or say, for example, like I said earlier, about go show. Thinking when you add your arm movement, you can start adding your shoulder movement, so everything moves a lot smoother and a lot earlier. And even when you do things like in simple katas like hand showdown, when you turn all the way around to do groin block, it's thinking about your shoulder movement that is going to make you turn so much smoother. And therefore, you can gradually speed up the turn and see if you can keep your balance. Just a quick reminder, keep up to date with Norwich Karate Academy by clicking that subscribe button. If you're not sure where to start with this drill, think about breaking down the drill and taking away the arms, so you focus on the legs, and this way focusing on keeping your stances so you have good balance after you perform the turn. So all you've got to think about is making sure that your legs control your movement, but the first thing you're thinking about is your shoulder. So if you were to go halfway, the idea would be to not think forward, but to think instantly turn your shoulder, so that the first thing that happens is your shoulder starts to turn. And once you've got to halfway, would be to then continue with the turn in whatever stance you wish. You can change it, so you do front stance, back stance, or horse stance, depending on what turn you're working on. And then gradually, once you get comfortable with this movement, rather than the whole swinging foot movement or foot in, you can gradually start speeding this up so that you almost react against yourself. So the first thing you do is your shoulder turns, and then you move your feet in nice and quickly, so everything works together. So you get that nice stopping point as well to control your body and keep your balance before then continuing on to the second half of the turn. The next step up would be to either speed up the second part of the turn, so then you're finishing your stances nice and quickly, or start adding your arm movements so you get used to doing the turn while still thinking about your shoulders and moving your arm correctly. So if I was to take an example out of Heian Shodan, doing the all the way around turn after the head block, rather than thinking about moving my feet and then preparing, I'm thinking about my shoulder as I prepare and I move my feet in. So to perform this nice and quickly, my shoulders have to move first as soon as I want to bring my foot in to complete the turn. And what you'll actually find is you'll start turning a lot more than you normally would. And then once you've done that first half, you can then perform the second half a lot quicker. So if I show you from this angle, you would think your shoulder comes off the mark nice and quickly, your movement is sharp, before then you can actually complete a really nice groin block in front stance, completing the turn. The final stage would be to simply try and perform the turn nice and fast while thinking about the simple drills we've covered on this video. So rather than going from this broken down action and splitting your turn into 2 or 3 parts, the focus would be to try and think as soon as you want to turn, you've got to perform the turn fast while thinking about that shoulder movement. This way, you're going to be able to get a nice fast turn. So, did you find this drill useful? If you did, let us know in the comments what you thought of this drill, and if there is anything that you are struggling with, whether it's something in your Kion, your Kata, or even your sparring, let us know in the comments, and we may be able to provide you with a little bit of content that will help you go a long way with your karate training. See you soon.